Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Hey, quick guest here. Osprey Orielle Lake is on the line, the founder and executive director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, WECAN. And on the executive committee, the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, WECANinternational.org is the website. The Twitter handle is WECAN_INTL. And Osprey, welcome to the program. Tell us about how we avert a hot, toxic endgame. I'm assuming you're talking climate.
Absolutely. Well, I'm here in Glasgow right now at COP26, and I think the most important thing is that we've got to get very clear that the Paris Climate Agreement does not talk about gas, oil, or coal. And so while we're trying to get governments to reduce their carbon emissions, which they're not doing at speed and scale, as we know right now, their commitments take us to a catastrophic 2.7 degrees rise of global temperature, which is definitely going to cook us. We need them to actually look at the supply end and to really reduce carbon emissions. And we're really here as an organization, but with many other movements, to say we don't want net zero, we want real zero, meaning real reductions. And we also want to really underscore the fact that there needs to be divestment from fossil fuels. We can't be having fossil fuel subsidies and continue to be polluting the atmosphere with carbon emissions, and then, on the other hand, saying we're trying to reduce emissions when we're continuing to create more.
And I should add, by the way, you're going to be on the Pioneers Conference. This is November 11th, 12th, and 13th. You're speaking on November 11th at 12:45 on a panel, and also on the 12th at 12:45. So people can check that out. Nature, justice, and women's leadership, and averting a hot, toxic endgame. So why is it that at COP26 there is not a specific discussion of, and actually I think it should go beyond just oil, coal, and gas. It should also probably include methane and agriculture at the very least, and maybe deforestation. Why are these individual topics not being broken out?
Well, it's the story that we've all been working to change, and the values and the fight that we're really having with the fossil fuel industry that so much of our economy is based on. And we know there's sort of a revolving door between financial institutions, the government, and the fossil fuel industry. And so the financial industry has got to really, make new plans. The government has to make new plans. Right now, as an example, 60 of the largest banks in the world have collectively financed $3.8 trillion in fossil fuel companies since the Paris Agreement. This is since we all decided we were going to keep at 1.5 degrees. $3.8 trillion has gone into fossil fuel companies from the financial sector. And then in the recent report by the UN Environment Program found that governments still plan to produce more than double the amount of fossil fuels in 2030 than would be consistent with limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. So between financial institutions continuing to finance the fossil fuel companies, the government's continuing to expand and extract fossil fuels, this is not a plan that's going to work. It's a disaster. So the question that, WECAN is bringing here is, where are the government leaders willing to stand up to the fossil fuel industry? Where is that courage to really take on that industry? And I think that always continues to be the elephant in the room, is actually dealing with this transition. And we would really love to see that kind of bold leadership. And I think that's very difficult because, of course, it means putting people and planet over profit. And that's a very big worldview values change that we're really demanding through climate justice movements that governments and industry make. And that's the thing that I think many of us are working on from many different angles.
Is it your sense that it's going to take irreversible, catastrophic climate change before anything gets done?
I think things are going to get worse before they get better. I think that we have to hang on to the 11th hour hope. I think things are going to get bad. I don't want to in any way pretend they're not. But I do think that the movements are going stronger. People are getting a lot more clear precisely about where the areas are that we need to be working in terms of, what we need to be fighting against, like net zero and carbon trading and all of these schemes to kind of kick the can down the road and not deal with needing to actually wean ourselves off of fossil fuels. And at the same time, we're seeing a plethora of solutions growing every day, from agroecology to indigenous knowledge, from climate justice policies to feminist economics. I mean, I'm not concerned actually about the solutions that are there. I think that they're growing, and we have these beautiful islands of survivability and ideas that are just blossoming and growing at this time of crisis. I think the real issue is that we need the time, and physics is not on our side right now. So we need to create just enough time for a lot of these solutions to really take hold, and to really stop bad actors, and really curtail their activities so that we can get through that little tiny keyhole that we have right now.
What can people, we just have 30 seconds, what can people who are listening or watching right now do to support climate change action?
I think the most important thing is to work locally, find a local group who's involved in the climate change issue and get involved. No one should be on the sidelines right now. This is a global climate emergency. Roll up your sleeves, jump in, and not only will you enjoy yourself, you can help us save the planet and ourselves.
Yeah, and as any shrink will tell you, the best antidote to despair is action. Getting involved, finding something that's really worth fighting for. Osprey Orielle Lake, the founder and executive director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, WECAN. WECANinternational.org is the website. WECAN_INTL is the Twitter handle. Osprey, thanks so much for dropping by. It's great talking with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.